Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Sensual Synergy. I am your host, Nickesha. We are here at the beautiful, wonderful, warm and cozy, the Women's Earth here in the historic Third Ward, or what do they call it? Third Ward or Midtown? But yeah, I know it is Third Ward. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we are here at the Women's Earth tonight, and I'm just so happy to be here and to be in this space with all these beautiful faces. And I say, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this share, because look here, you guys have been asking for a show on Tantra, okay? And so I have found a real live Tantrika, someone who is actually teaching Tantra, and she has a special spin on the Tantra that she teaches, and that she teaches individual tantric practice. Okay, so most of the time when you hear about Tantra, you see things about Tantra, it's usually couples. You type in Tantra right now, you probably pull up some videos and you'll see couples. So people usually think of a couple when they think of Tantra, because they think of a sacred sexual practice. Well, this beautiful young lady next to me has created this concept of what we're going to be talking about tonight is the art of solo tantra. So without further ado, I want you guys to give a warm welcome to Jessica Crystal Joy of Feminine Empowerment. Let's give her a round of applause. Jessica. Thank you so much for coming here tonight.
Thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed that round of applause. You make me feel really welcome here.
Yes, definitely you are. Here at Sensual Synergy, we are all about moving towards tolerance and personal responsibility. So I hope that you find this platform something that's going to be beneficial for you, and also my audience. I hope that what she has to share tonight will be of benefit to you as well. So let's go ahead and get into the share. Can you please tell us how you began your personal journey to create feminine empowerment?
Sure. So as you said, I call myself a feminine empowerment educator. Everyone kind of has a spin on what they do in education, and I found my place through a place of pain and confusion. And I think that's what a lot of people do when they first search. Usually people don't search for answers when their life is perfect and everything is going right. And so what really started my journey to the point of saying, okay, I have been doing personal work since 2001, but I need to flip the switch and start teaching, is a relationship that I had. I was in a 5-year marriage starter, as some of you might know the term, relationship with a guy. And about 3 years in, I can remember it right now, there was a specific point where I just stood around, looked around and said, this is not life. This is not living. This isn't relationship. What am I going to do to start loving myself again? What am I going to do to start connecting? And once I found that, I said that this is not just about me. I have to share this with the world, because there are other women out here feeling the same. There are other women who don't even know that they're feeling this way, that once I connect with them, they can say, I don't have to take as long as she did. I don't have to go through everything that I did. I can get through it faster because I have someone to guide me. She knows where I'm at.
Wow. Now let me ask you a question. You talked about not feeling connected, and you talked about loving yourself. What did that look like at that time? Where did that realization come that you were not connecting and that you needed to love yourself more? What in that reflection, in that relationship, showed you that gave you that revelation?
Definitely, and I love how you said reflection. Obviously, as the years go by, it's easier to get to that point of realizing that it's not just about the relationship right here, it's not just about the other person. And for me, going to where I am, I have so much gratitude about what happened, but what hit me in the mark was my boyfriend and I were in the bedroom, we were in the middle of making love, and all of a sudden, all I hear is click, 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 scroll, scroll, scroll. And his bottom half was connected to me, but his top half was focused on the computer, looking for some sort of pornography to get him in the mood.
Wow.
I was feeling tightness in my stomach. I was confused because I'm with somebody who told me he loves me, and I knew he loved me, and I loved him. And yet here I am in my first serious relationship, and I'm like, what do I do? Am I supposed to enjoy this? I don't quite know what to do. And it continued for years. And it got to a point where I was like, maybe I should become a nun?
Wow.
Because we love each other, but our sexuality and our chemistry is just not there. And when I decided to start taking action, take care of my own needs, even just self-pleasuring myself, I would have to feel like I need to watch myself. Who's around, who's watching, and I would feel disgusted, a sense of just disgust in my body. And I was like, is this how I'm supposed to be when I'm taking care of a natural need for myself? Is this what love and relationship and physical intimacy is supposed to be like? That was when I realized something needs to change.
Okay, so you talked about the disgust, which takes me to when I was looking through your beautiful website. Beautiful, with great information. Definitely want you to connect to that website. You talked about the concept of sexual shame.
Yes.
So was that the point that you realized that you had this sexual shame? And how were you able to really pinpoint that? You talked about how you were able to pinpoint that, but how were you able to reconcile that there was an issue with having that shame in the context of being in a society that says if you are self-pleasuring, you need to feel like you're doing something wrong?
Definitely. For me, sexual shame can really be a whole nother topic, a whole nother class. It could be something 5 hours long. And what I put on the website related to that is a beautiful connection, and when you allow yourself to listen. Before we had the show, we were all conversing, kind of getting to know each other. And the founder of the space was talking about how she listens to her clients, and that is such a gift, so you know what you're connecting to. My clients were talking about that, and so even though I shared that point, when I share about sexual shame, I'm talking about the conscious collective, which if you are someone who may be new to spirituality or doesn't know what that term means, for me, conscious collective is the agreed upon belief, the general thing that's accepted, such as in America, we are accepting that there is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc., and that we're in 2014. But if you go to China, they have a different calendar, and they collectively don't necessarily agree that this year is 2014.
Gotcha.
So I'm connecting to a society, a culture that is building that our desire for touch, our desire to physically connect, our sexuality and sensuality is shameful, and how that impacts us even before we step into the world of relating to others.
Wow. Interesting. That is interesting. So let's go ahead and move into what you do.
Sure.
Okay. So of course, Tantra is the catchy term these days, And when people hear Tantra, they usually think about massage, maybe a yoni or a yoni massage or something of that nature, or gazing into your lover's eyes with some flutes playing in the background and some candles lit. Let's be honest.
Yes.
If you type in Tantra, that's what you're going to see. Okay. So could you please explain the concept of Tantra and what you do? Because what we want our audience to understand that Tantra is expansive. It's not just yoni and lingam massages. It's not just candles and deep gazing into your lover's eyes. It's much more than that. So can you talk about Tantra and how you have taken the aspect of Tantra to create your practice, and tell us about your practice?
Sure. Well, before I get into that, we were kind of talking a little bit before too, and I was saying how I consider myself to be a deviant tantrika, a deviant tantra educator, Because, as you said, if you usually Google or you see people or you see women that identify and they do this for professional work, their focus tends to be on hands-on massage, it tends to be working with men, it tends to be working with couples. It's usually in some sort of aspect focusing on building a awesome sexual life for someone.
Yes.
And that can be great because let's face it, if you are someone who is committing to be with someone for the rest of your life, if you're monogamous or even if you're polyamorous and you just want to connect with somebody for long periods of time, you're going to have to find some way to get over the hump. You know, we have chemistry and we have that new relationship energy, but it fades. It's not something that stays. So I give great kudos to the women that do that, but the issue that I have is that's all you see, especially when you first go searching.
Yes.
So I'm deep it because what you're going to hear is different than what some other people might share and some popular people might share. Tantra and yoga are coming from my lineage, which is, I was taught in the India section. There's a Tibetan version of Tantra, which looks completely different, and in fact, most people don't know about it because it's just starting to come out there. Reason being, the Tibetan form of Tantra was a more controlled, you have a master teaching a student, going from master going to student, and that information usually wasn't shared. It's just now that these masters are feeling comfortable to share with Westerners, to tell them it's okay to come here and share the knowledge. So the Indian version of Tantra is usually more prevalent because it was a little more, go out, spread the word. And those two words are Sanskrit, which is basically like Latin. People aren't going to say that, so please don't go to India and start saying namaste and Adho Mukha and all this stuff, because they don't speak that. But it's a rich history, just like Latin. That's why people that study yoga, teach yoga, learn it. So what Tantra means in English is to expand in liberation. And as we know, yoga is the connection of mind and body. So we put it together in Tantra Yoga, in the simplest terms, is using your mind and body to expand. And so that can mean a lot of things. And that can be when you're Googling, you're finding this information, and it can be confusing. Because just like regular yoga, there's so many different types. There's laughter, there's the Ashtanga, there is the Yin. And so what I like to do is focus on what people consider the white Tantra. I like the individual practice because my belief is if you are not coming from a place of mastery, and you are then going to start doing this stuff where we deal with energy with another person, how are you going to handle that if you can't handle yourself? How are you going to know what to do with some of these exercises, which are really emotionally opening, very intimate, if you haven't practiced yourself? And so that's why I like using it, because I do classes and workshops and online information for the individual, and it's usually hands-off and more about learning to regulate, learning to be comfortable in your body first and foremost before working with someone else.
Wow. You talked about it revealing emotions. Why is that important in an individual practice for me to become connected to my emotions?
It's something that's really important to me and really vital, I believe. In this work of Tantra, we have a belief that your body can take on the emotions, the challenges, the highs and lows that we experience day to day. If you've ever experienced what we call in the Western world depressions, or maybe even fiber or other things of that nature, you might connect with what I'm saying. Because people that tend to have depression or anxiety have certain sensations in their body. They say they feel heavy. They say it's hard to get up. They feel like maybe their body feels a little black or a little dull. Those are all examples of language that we use that shares our emotional body is connected to the things in here. And so in Tantra, what you might not get with someone who's not deviant like I am, it teaches is that these techniques, even the hands-on techniques, is not just necessarily for sex. It's releasing this and getting those feelings and those situations out of our physical body so we have more flow. And that's why it's important, because if it's just getting stuck up in certain places of you and you're going on, what happens to a trash can that it doesn't get empty? Your body's that trash can, and that's why it's important to clear it out.
Interesting, interesting. So, one thing that I found is that a lot of times it's very difficult for people to really see the benefit in connecting with their feelings and their emotions, because it can be a very scary place. And you talked about the flow, but can you go a little bit deeper into the benefits of really connecting to how your emotions affect your physical body, the way you feel and things of that nature, and the benefit? If someone was here and they say, okay, I don't want to connect with my emotions, I have too much stuff that I just want to push in the recesses of my mind, why would I want to pull this stuff up? For what reason? To flow? I don't want to flow. I just want to forget. What would you say to a person like that? But that's a reality. Yeah.
It is a very good reality, and so I'm going to do a little fold on that. I'm going to do maybe a 3-part.
Go ahead.
My first part fold is, as someone who educates, I feel that there's a certain amount of willingness that needs to come, and that if you have a session with me or any other healer and you aren't in the mindset of wanting to handle your challenges, we can do the best we want, but our results aren't going to work because you're not going to do the work afterwards, you're not going to do the work before. And also, as we had shared, when you shared the story about the person who was talking and then had that person who was out of their life connect with them, once you do the work, your challenges or what was swept underneath is coming up to come out. I say it might be a little gross analogy, but I say that it's like a pimple. And the only way, just like on our body, a pimple comes is if it bursts. You can't do anything else. And so if they are in a place of fear and they really are extremely resistant, I would say that it's not their time to do this per se. Now, a reason why you would want this to come up is, I'm going to go maybe the more traditional way of Tantra, and then I'll go a little bit less traditional. The traditional way, if you're focused on relationships, sexuality, and things of that nature, is we are kind of the nitty-gritty. A lot of yoga talks about go in your heart space, breathe and feel your heart, feel your third eye, and it's forgetting the bottom part of our body, right? And people have this perception that yoga is all positive, but Tantra, we get dirty. If we are in a place where we're doing hands-on or energy work and we're feeling that rage, we encourage you to scream at the top of your lungs, and that's okay. If you are feeling like someone who has invaded your physical space, your privacy, and they have really crossed over you and you're feeling that, and you need to wail like the banshee. And so it's getting that ability to use your voice and to express something that other people might have told you to push back. And how powerful is that to have your lover touch that deep part of you, and how strong will your relationship be, and how fun can your physical practice, your sexuality be with your partner when you can not only just do the rote repetition, but you can emotionally scream, laugh, joy. You can have levels while you're physically connecting, and how strong of a bond can you get like that, right?
Yeah. And
on the less traditional side, and on the more actual, I guess I'll call it deviant side of it, it's important because, as I said, we need to clear things out. You become more masterful of your emotions. You have more tools and training on how to handle your day-to-day life. And in some situations, Certain techniques work, certain techniques don't. And so the more you have in your toolbox, the more you're prepared to handle the challenges in day-to-day life.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's great. So, the big picture. What do you desire out of what you do? How am I trying to say this? I'm trying to say, what do you desire for your work to do for the human race? What do you see? What do you envision? You know, because as healers, we have this end goal, we have this vision on how we want the world to be. And how does that world look for you, Jessica?
I like that, and also I'm going to caveat that the more I go into my practice professionally, I'm learning to really let go on necessarily changing the outside and working on the inside, and the people that come to me really heal and hold space. One of the reasons that I decided to be a professional is in that dark time when I realized that I needed to make a change. I didn't do it as fastly as I could have. I was scared, I didn't quite know what to do, and I went with status quo for a while. And then after a few months I decided I needed to look for help. And when I was looking at this time, which was about 7 years ago, I had Googled and I didn't find anyone in my state. I was living in Indiana at the time. And I knew I only had a certain key points because I had to keep his set and my set because it was a union. We both had to be comfortable to move forward, and knowing that he was not religious or spiritual, and knowing that I couldn't find a sex therapist, I was like, I'm looking for something in between. And spending about 5 hours a day for 4 months and coming up with only a book and phone calls wasn't really something that let me know there was hope there for me. And so part of what I'm here is to be a ringer, so people don't have to spend 4 hours every day for 4 or 5 months looking for something. I'm here. You don't have to waste your time. And also, it's important for me to share what I know to help elevate the way we relate to people. I'm not sure if those who are watching are really connected to the internet or you guys are, but there are a lot of videos going on lately about feminine empowerment and the day-to-day lives of women. And there was one we were talking about a lady who was walking on the streets in New York and what her experience is and how frequently the men were complimenting her almost abrasively, telling her to smile. Why isn't she smiling? Oh, you sure look good, honey. What's going on, baby? Instead of, you look beautiful, ma'am. And someone who followed her without saying a word for 2 minutes straight, right behind her. And it was just herself. If I'm coming in this space and creating ways so these men who are obviously desperate to connect.
Say that again.
Desperate. Because if you're not in desperation and you're going to connect with someone, you can be like, hey, how's it going? Or, hi, Nickesha, can I get your number? Or like, oh, that is a nice bracelet. Can you tell me where you got that from? I'm directly connecting with you instead of quietly, I'm you.
Invading my
Invading your space.
Yeah.
So they're desperate because they don't know how. If I can teach some of these people or people in general better ways of directly communicating without fear, that is slowly shifting the place so this doesn't happen anymore. It's important.
Excellent, excellent. So can you tell us about the workshops that you hold here in the Houston area?
Sure. So I hold workshops and I also hold classes that are Tantra based. I usually like to set them up in sections because, as you said, people have certain expectations when they Google. Some people don't. Some people want to learn, but they're afraid. So I like to hold intro sessions where I give even more details about the history, about how we label Tantra in the Western world, so you can come out a little educated. You can even throw some stuff out to your friends after classes. You'll be like, well, did you know this? Did you know that? My teacher told me that, and look at all this information I know. And I also do hands-on, where it's one-on-one education. That way you can leave the class and you can learn how to tune in, you can calm yourself down, and also do more advanced work too from there. But my focus is on my workshop is getting both the mental knowledge and the physical knowledge so you can come out as a fully integrated person, more interested in your body, more empowered with how you relate to your world.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And on the last note, because we're getting ready to go into break, I wanted you to, something that was very interesting when I was looking at a video series that you're doing for women of color. You talked, in one of the videos, you talked about sex positive. Can you talk about what does that mean, sex positive? You were talking about sex positive healers or sex positive women of color healers. Can you talk about that, please?
Sure. So that is something that is relatively-ish new, because I say relatively-ish because it's less than 100 years old, so I'm going to deem that is still up on the rise and still solidifying. There is a movement going on, and it's kind of stemming from feminist information about sex positivity, which is removing the negativity and the shame and the fear. It's being positive about our bodies. It's really consent-based, and consent is making sure people are giving you clear yeses for actions, clear yeses for the way you interact, instead of just assuming or doing or following rules. And it's also really focusing on removing things so we can get educated, right? Just looking at stats alone, we see that places that are promoting abstinence-only education have a lot of pregnancy in their places. So even if you do not want people to necessarily engage at a young age, sex positive is saying let's share that information so they can be aware if they are. Also, it's talking about things such as contraceptives. It's talking about, let's really get into STIs. It's called sexually transmitted infection instead of disease, because frequently these are things that can be managed or treated, and the disease is a shaming scarlet letter label. And if we don't talk about this, there are these people who are infected in our community. How, if you fall in love with this person, are we supposed to interrelate? How are we going to be safe and make sure we're taken care of if we don't open that up for discussion?
Interesting.
This is all what sex positivity is, getting it out there so we can be educated and more authoritative in our choices on the physical part of relating.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. What we're getting ready to do, we're getting ready to go into a brief break, and we're going to come back for our Q&A session. Thank you so much for giving us all this wonderful information, and I look forward to the questions that we have out of the audience. Let's give ourselves a round of applause.